Welcome to the Year of the Movie podcast, the podcast where we talk about movies from the year of the movie 2023. I'm Sebastian.
I'm Maggie.
And today we have our first guest who isn't Bryce. Please welcome our good friend Shawn Braley.
Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you for being here. Today's movie, let's just get into that. Today's movie is Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves. So we have Shawn here to talk about that, and Bryce is also going to weigh in quite a bit because we're big D&D people. Bryce is a big D&D guy.
Bryce is a bigger D&D guy.
Yeah.
I am fully prepared for this film.
So we're gonna be doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But Maggie,
Yeah.
why did we start this podcast?
I'm so glad you asked. So 2023 is a goofy year for movies. There are strikes, all that good stuff. But also Cocaine Bear, 65, Barbie, Strays,
80 for Brady.
80 for Brady, Slaughterhouse that I just watched the trailer for. It's goofy. So
Yeah.
we started this to talk about all of the goofy movies and how weird they are.
Except a goofy movie.
Except for a goofy movie, unfortunately.
I mean, maybe we find a loophole.
Maybe there's a re-release. There's been
because
some re-releases.
The little house cleaning. For Patreon listeners, we're gonna have little special episodes exclusive only to our Patreon, with things that have like 2023 re-releases. So Coraline is going to be one of those. The Dark Knight trilogy apparently is gonna get a re-release.
Yeah.
And then we might find other things like if it's an anniversary year or something.
Yeah.
Then that'll be a special episode for Patreon listeners.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I said, our movie today is Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves. What Maggie? What is the synopsis?
I'm so glad you asked.
So glad I asked.
A charming thief and a band of unlikely adventurers embark on an epic quest to retrieve a long-lost relic, but their charming adventure goes dangerously awry when they run afoul of the wrong people. Hijinks ensue.
Sure.
How experienced are all of you with D&D?
Let's start with Shawn.
Not
Great.
experienced at
Great.
all.
Great answer.
I did sit in on a quarter of a campaign, or not. I don't know even if a campaign is it that like the one night or a campaign
if
goes
it's like
over
a one
time.
shot, it can be a campaign, but sometimes campaigns are multiple sessions.
Okay, well, I sat in on about 20 minutes of D&D, and then the guy that was the dungeon master was just he was just taking it so seriously. Like I wanted to take it, like really play it right, you know,
Yeah.
but it wasn't fun for anybody. So
Yeah.
I was just like, I'm just gonna.
I feel like
No.
that also goes into play though, because for our viewers who don't know, you are a comedian.
Mhm.
You do stand up, and many things that you think of in your brain are funny thoughts, right?
Yeah.
That's how I play Dungeons and Dragons.
Play it funny.
I like
Mhm.
to have fun.
Yeah.
Improvising. That's a big reason why I love role playing. Is you get to improvise and be wacky and goofy. So when you do have a rules lawyer for your dungeon master, then I get why it's not.
Sucks the
fun.
fun out of it. So then I was like, if this is what this is, but I also, my other experience with it is the episode of Freaks and Geeks
Oh, it's a great episode.
where they play Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
So that makes it look like a blast.
Yeah.
They do it right.
Freaks and Geeks will come up later.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it will.
Yeah.
Nice.
So,
Maggie, what's your experience with D&D?
I have listened to and watched more D&D being played than I've actually played it myself. I've listened to a lot of the Adventure Zone and then the Dimension 20 on Dropout, both really good. There's a good mix of like storytelling and then kind of paying attention to the rules of the game, but not really. So that's the extent of my knowledge of it.
Bryce, what is your D&D extent?
So it started back in high school, where the playstyle that we did was GURPS. Wasn't actually D&D. It was a few steps back from D&D. It was a little easier for intro people. I went way too hard into it. I made things way too complicated right off the bat, and everyone was like, "Hey, chill." So after that, we moved on to D&D, started playing 5e. Jumped around a couple, not full campaigns, mostly just one-shots, because as those who play D&D know, it is hard to get a regular group together every month or every 2 weeks, something like that. Yeah. But then in college, that's when the ball started rolling a bit more. I found a good group that I'm with right now. We also have our own group, which I DM.
Yeah.
And that's where it's a Western Outback, is what I kind of like to phrase it as. It's
like like an Outback Steakhouse in Oregon or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Those
Western
vibes
Outback.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Where you go in and really you feel like it should be something on the bobby, but it's all like
that's really good.
Is Crocodile Dundee here right now? Like, what's going on?
Whoa!
I don't do impressions. That's why all of my D&D characters have a southern accent. That's why we made it a Western.
Play
mostly.
to your strengths.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, they can have southern accents anywhere, Bryce. I mean, it could be an Outback Steakhouse in Oregon, and the wait staff's like, "How you doing, darling?" Right? Like
that is true. No spoilers for my campaign that we're gonna do on here.
Oh,
It all just takes place in Outback.
can't wait for it.
we're actually sponsored by Outback Steakhouse. Big reveal.
They sponsor today.
Yeah.
Try the bloomin' onion.
That was a good ad read. Thanks, Sean.
Thanks.
Now
Yeah.
we don't have to do it.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
But yeah, been a DM, been a player for a long time, very much ingrained into it.
Yeah.
I'm a casual player.
Mm-hmm.
I've never like I said, I like to have fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been more of like, if I find the right people. My family is, we do role playing. We have a Marvel role playing campaign that's not D&D, but like it's still role playing. I don't really watch it as much unless it's like a crew that I really like.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm definitely more of a casual player.
Yeah. Did you guys also know there is a previous movie trilogy for D&D and an animated show?
The trilogy was really bad.
Yes. It seems like it started out bad, and then it went to direct to video, and then something else. Like, it just...
So it got better.
None of them were great. I know Jeremy Irons is in at least the first one.
Wow. Good job, Jeremy.
Yeah. And then there was a cross-promotional thing with the release for this movie. They had characters from the animated show like reacting to the trailer.
Oh, yeah.
And then apparently they also have kind of a cameo in this movie.
Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll...
Yeah, it's at the...
Well, we can't spoil yet.
Oh, that's correct.
So we can talk about it later.
Gotcha.
But
Yeah.
you do know where it is, and that's what matters right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because the first half, for our viewers know, the first half of our podcast episode
Mm-hmm.
is spoiler free, and a big chunk of that we talk about the trailer to the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And Maggie,
Yeah.
why don't we talk about the movie trailer?
I'm kind of glad you asked.
I'm not.
Well, so there's just not a lot of information out there, like necessarily in comparison to like a movie that has come out in the 80s or is considered a classic now. For 2023, there's just not nearly as much out there to talk about. So that's partially why we talk about it, and also we can't legally show the trailer, so it's mostly just like a description of if you're interested in it.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it, it's a good way of us breaking down things that are cool. Or you can watch the trailer,
Yeah.
watch the movie, and watch the whole podcast.
Yeah. So I don't know whose turn it is, but I will do it because I think my notes are goofy.
Yeah, it's also easier for you to read it today.
Yeah. So the trailer starts out. It does that thing where it has a series of clips from the trailer that play before the title card that says the trailer is starting now.
Mm-hmm. So it's because the video thumbnail, when people just like hover over it, it plays that little bit.
Yeah.
And...
So besides describing all those individual shots, There's a boat in the water near a castle. There's intense music playing. We see some of the adventuring party walking through a chaotic-looking plaza with Chris Pine's narration, "Here's the thing, we're a team of thieves." We see more of the party in a different location with lots of lava. A magical thingy is unlocked, and Chris Pine continues, "When you do this, you're bound to make enemies." A golden helmet is pulled out of the magic thing. There's a shot of the castle.
Magic thing is a good description.
Yeah. There's a shot of the castle and some armies coming over a ridge with Pine's narration. Sometimes those enemies come looking for revenge. A dragon comes out of the foggy sky, wiping out many in the army. It leaves behind a big explosion. The music changes to Led Zeppelin's Whole Lotta Love. There's some dramatic cliffs and Chris Pine's character with a cape leading a group into a new location, and he says, "Truth be told, we helped the wrong people steal the wrong thing," as a glowing red horn is shown being held by a woman with red eyes. A wall behind Chris Pine lights on fire. There's shots with lightning. Things are dark. There are more people in red, while he says, "We didn't mean to unleash the greatest evil the world has ever known." As the group seemingly uses the power of the red horn to put up a force field, there are other quick shots of magic being used as Chris Pine's voice, "But we're gonna fix it." A woman asks, "But how do we pull that off?" as the group begins to shake, or the ground begins to shake underneath a shot of a human skull. There's another quick shot to Chris Pine and Michelle Rodriguez as he says, and she asks, "Figure it out over a drink?" And he says, "Probably best." The music picks up over a variety of different location shots. Chris Pine saying, "To give us a fighting chance, we're gonna need strength. You got this, right?" Michelle Rodriguez says, "I know you don't," and we see her hitting bad guys with big weapons. Pine continues, "We also need courage," and there's a man in glowing armor with a shiny sword. Pine says, "Magic," and we see a guy with a glowing helmet do magic. Pine finishes saying, "And you," to a girl with horns. We see a transformation of an owl bear attacking a bunch of people while Chris Pine, Michelle Rodriguez, and Justice Smith watch on horseback. The owl bear jumps onto a horse and transforms back into the girl with horns, completing the introduction of the adventuring party. Title card saying, "Next year" appears over a volcano. There's another quick shot of a dragon and another shot of the druid girl falling into the floor and popping up somewhere else. A voice says, "Be warned, there is evil here," as the group goes into a cave and there's a bad guy with a glowing green sword. Different magic. There's a fight sequence with the adventuring party's own sword guy, and the group watches aside from the sidelines, saying, "Glad he's on our side." A new title card saying, "Who needs heroes?" before another shot of the witch woman using lightning, another explosion. Title card, "When you have thieves." The group is shown in an arena with a maze popping up. Hugh Grant is there waving to people. Chris Pine says, "This one's dangerous." There's a treasure chest that's actually a monster. Chris Pine is shown talking to a young girl in a garden by a house, saying, "But whatever happens," interrupted by lots of quick action shots of the owlbear, the gooey cube, which I could not remember the name of, the gelatinous cube, yeah. Magic. Chris Pine falling towards a different dragon. The screen cuts to black as the narration finishes, "We'll be ready." Cut back to the sword man jumping towards the dragon, threatening Chris Pine, and then the movie title on the screen. We see the druid girl again, asking, "What exactly is it that you bring to this?" And Chris Pine responds, "I'm a planner. I make plans." She says, "You already made the plan, so..." And he says, in case this plan fails, then I make a new plan." She says, "So you make plans that fail?" "No." Michelle Rodriguez says he also plays the lute. Chris Pine says, "Not relevant," and we get the last shot of him playing the lute and singing. There's a lot of shots in this trailer.
Yep.
So it's kind of hard to give a good description of all of them, but
It was action-packed
yeah.
and set to that song. Sean, do you want to give us a taste?
Want a whole lot of love.
Yep. So if that sounds interesting to you, then check out that trailer.
Yeah. Go to a computer near you
Yep.
or a phone.
Maybe
Yeah.
the one you're on.
Maybe
Listening.
you're probably. You're not just watching this in the ether.
We get radio syndication.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which could happen. I mean,
Fingers crossed.
that was an amazing reading. So
Thank you. There are a lot of quick shots. Some things are hard to describe, but there are a lot of things in it that D&D players specifically would recognize. Otherwise, it's just entertaining things to flash by for someone new to watch. It sets the tone of the film pretty well, and it doesn't take itself too seriously. Was a positive review I kept seeing of the movie in general.
Yeah,
and this
I mean that's
sets that.
when I saw the trailer, I was pretty pumped because it just looked like a fun movie. Like it was just like, yeah, this is a fun movie. It's not going to be like a world-changing movie, but it's going to be a fun movie set in this D&D type of universe. And so I thought that was pretty fun.
Yep.
Bryce, when you saw this trailer, what were your thoughts? Because around when it was happening, or when the trailer came out, there was a whole
Kerfuffle.
D&D boycott, kind of.
Yeah, so what had happened was the Wizard of the Coast was bought by Hasbro.
Mm-hmm.
And Hasbro wanted to be a little bit sneaky with a new, I don't know, it was a new contract list of rules, terms of agreement. There we go.
Yep.
The new terms of agreement that pretty much said all the homebrew content that would be published on major sites like D&D Beyond would then fall under the ownership of Hasbro, therefore making it their own property and profiting off of that.
Basically, players didn't own their own stories.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which was a bad move to do to a community that spends all their free time looking at very pedantic rules
Yeah.
Mhm.
to play a fun game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that happened. The first trailer that I saw, I was very hyped.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
That was very cool. I was ready.
Yeah.
The second trailer, I think they just had an off day. It wasn't exciting, so my interest
Yeah.
lowered.
Mm-hmm.
Actually seeing the movie for what I did see in the theater,
Mm-hmm.
because we were about 40 minutes late, absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Went back and watched the first half, or first third, loved it even more.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I felt.
Mhm.
Sean?
Yeah.
When you saw the trailer for the first time, was it 10 minutes ago when we just watched it?
Yes. I typically try to avoid watching trailers
Mm.
just because they often spoil parts of the movie that
Yeah.
are relevant to me. And I mean, this one does a decent job at not giving away a lot of the story.
They give
Like,
away the
they kind of-
synopsis.
yeah.
Mhm.
But so many movies
No,
don't do
yeah,
that,
I
so-
agree. I usually watch the first trailer or a
Mm.
teaser trailer,
Mhm.
and then that's where I leave it. Like,
Yeah.
especially with all of the nonsense of Marvel and Star Wars these days, where I'm just like, I know I'm gonna watch it. Like, it's just,
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't need you to sell me on it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I want to know like the general gist of it, but
Yeah.
otherwise, I'm,
Mhm.
yeah.
I don't think this trailer gave away too much of the plot,
Mm-mm.
but there was some criticisms that I saw when I was reading reviews about the movie that said like a lot of it, the like visuals were given away in the trailer because
Mhm.
it didn't pack as much of a punch. If you watch the trailer, then like you were saying, then it kind of got spoiled. If
Yeah.
like you don't care that much that a dragon is there because you knew it was going to show
Right.
up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's gonna be a dragon in Dungeons and Dragons.
At least
You
one,
tell me there's gonna be a dragon in Dungeons and Dragons.
maybe even a dungeon.
Is there gonna be? There's. I was gonna ask. There's gonna be a Dungeons and Dragons.
All right, I think I gotta go.
So the cast of this movie,
Pretty good.
pretty
cast.
good.
Yeah.
Chris Pine as Edgin the Bard, Michelle Rodriguez as Holga the Barbarian, Renee Jean Page, I think that's how you pronounce it, as Zank, I think that's how you pronounce it, the Paladin, Justice Smith as Simon the Sorcerer, Sophia Lillis as Doric the Druid, Hugh Grant as Forge, the bad guy, Daisy Head as Sophina the Red Witch, and Chloe Coleman as Kira,
Who is the daughter in this movie, but also in our film, film
in one of the most
in
films
one of the
that
most
we've
films
watched.
that we've watched.
One of the most
65.
films?
Yeah.
She's Adam Driver's daughter in 65, and if you're curious about 65, go ahead and go and watch our episode about 65. It's the first episode we did.
Chloe Coleman is making a career out of having a famous dad,
Yeah.
and it's working.
Or famous like pseudo dad, because she's in that one My Spy movie
Oh,
where Dave Bautista
yeah,
plays like not her dad, but like she doesn't have a dad.
he becomes a father figure.
Yeah, and Dave Bautista is, as we know, in Knock at the Cabin, which is
Mhm.
another movie that we've talked about. So go ahead and watch that episode
Yeah.
if you're unfamiliar with Dave Bautista.
The rest of this episode is just talking about other episodes.
This is our bottle episode.
Yeah, so that's the trailer. That's the cast.
Mhm.
So now I think we're gonna start talking about what happens in the movie.
Yeah,
So if you don't want spoiled,
don't.
keep it playing. Just stop listening.
Yeah,
Yeah, just keep watching.
Yeah.
yeah.
You want to see us.
Now, Sean,
Yeah.
tell our viewers how much
Uh,
of this film have you seen?
So I have seen about half of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the last thing that you remember seeing?
It's hard to say. It all kind of blends together in my head a little bit. I know that I was introduced to all the main characters.
Okay.
And then that was probably about it. So, but I'm pretty sure that was about halfway through. It was like 45 minutes or something. So maybe.
Yep. So, like we said, there's not a whole lot of deviation between the trailer and then the movie. And then people said potentially too much was given away in the trailer. The whole thing kind of revolves around Chris Pine's backstory. So he used to be a good guy in this organization called Harper's, but then his wife was killed by the Red Wizards dudes, and then he gave up being good
for money.
For money. He turned to crime to help him raise his daughter or to support himself, and then he started raising his daughter with Michelle Rodriguez, not romantically. They're have
good friends.
They have kind of a sibling dynamic.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
Please.
Sure.
Don't the wizards kill his wife because he stole something from them?
So
it's been a while since we've watched it.
He didn't steal something from them, but he was holding onto a thing from the Harpers that the Red Wizards wanted.
Okay.
And then it was like a home invasion thing, and then she was killed, and she protected their daughter by like hiding her into a secret hidey hole in the wall.
Yeah.
I forget if it was the specific slab thing that they try and steal again. Anyway, there's a whole found family situation, and then he was betrayed by Hugh Grant. I should use character names. He was betrayed by Forge.
Hugh Grant.
Yeah. Who was working with the Red Wizards to gain power. And then Edgin and Holga get arrested. They're like the fall guys for Forge. They spend 2 years in jail after trying to steal a tablet that would bring back Edgin's wife back to life. And then that turns out to all be a ruse so that the wizards can get the horn. They go back to get Edgin's daughter, who has been raised by Forge in the meantime, so now she hates her dad. And then they decide to steal from Forge and get Kira back, so this new group is formed. Hijinks ensue. They eventually get the tablet, and then it's used on Michelle Rodriguez instead, because she is fatally wounded. And then Kira is like, "You're my real mom. You're the one that raised me."
Because she doesn't remember her bio mom.
Yeah, and that's part of the tension is like, Chris Pine is like, "I always do this for you and for your mom," and she's like, "I don't know her."
Yeah. Bryce, you raised your hand.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. They went after his family because the organization that he was a part of took down one of the Crimson Wizards.
Right.
And then went after him. The tablet didn't come in till later.
Okay. Thought so. Yeah, a lot of the setup and the plot beats are very similar to a regular D&D campaign. There's a lot of like side quest things. Like there's a big part of the movie that's like, we have to get this helmet so that we can do this thing so that we can get into the vault and steal stuff and win. Classic tragic backstory for a comedic character thing. Feel like Edgin is like pretty light and like bounce you throughout the whole thing, and then like you dig too deep into him, and then he's like, "My wife died, and it was the worst day of my life."
I thought the movie though it had a lot of funny bits that weren't. I don't know. It didn't take me out of it. Like I know, like especially like with Marvel stuff right now, a lot of people are saying that like there are too many one-liners to like relieve tension or whatever.
It's
but like
too quippy.
Yeah, like I didn't think this movie was too quippy. I thought everything like fit. Like the scene that I really liked was when they're bringing the dead soldiers back to life.
Yeah.
To ask them like 3 questions or whatever. I don't know if you got to that part, but it was funny.
They're trying to find the helmet so that Simon will gain power. And then they're like, it's from this battle that was a really long time ago. I think that's the battle that's in the trailer, that the dragon is breathing fire. And there's a spell that they can do to ask soldiers about it, who were there and like witnessed the helmet getting transferred to different people.
They stay alive. Like they're still in like their bony state or whatever, but
Yeah.
they stay alive for like 3 questions.
And then the one guy, they forget to ask him a third question, and then it cuts back to him after the movie, and he's like, "Does anyone want to ask me anything? I'll tell you my favorite color." Like he's just sitting there in the graveyard.
Yeah, there's definitely a strong like Monty Python vibe
Yeah.
to the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the they mentioned in some interviews a couple different like inspirations, and I think that was one of the ones they listed. They also said they purposely didn't want the story to be meta about the D&D game itself, especially after Jumanji: The Next Level came out in 2019.
Yeah.
Bradley Cooper is in this movie.
Yeah. Did you get to Bradley Cooper?
If I did, I don't.
He has the
You would
smallest
remember.
cameo. So they're visiting Michelle Rodriguez's character's
Holga's
Holga's old home,
Mm-hmm.
visiting her now ex-husband.
yeah.
Okay.
And her ex-husband is played by Bradley Cooper. But Bradley Cooper is playing a halfling,
Yeah.
right?
It's either halfling or gnome.
Yeah, so he's super small. And
Okay.
like she's like a big muscular
She's a barbarian.
Yeah.
barbarian,
Yeah.
right? And so she goes in and then she's like hello to her ex-husband, and it's just little Bradley Cooper
On
just
like a
sitting
big
on,
armchair.
on an armchair, and it's just like, yeah, like you just like weren't emotionally ready, and I just, I could feel us drifting apart, and then you went to jail. I'm like, what did you expect me to do? Just wait for you?
And he has a new barbarian girlfriend.
Yeah.
What you expect me to do? Wait for you.
Yeah.
That was like maybe the one moment where I was like, it kind of takes you out of it because it's Bradley Cooper.
I was confused
Sure.
why it was him specifically.
Yeah, because like Bradley Cooper was not in any promotional like trailers or images or anything. Like
Yeah.
it was just like, that's Bradley Cooper.
I mean, you're thinking about that as opposed to being like, oh, this is a character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if it was God, is this a character actor? Like is his name? He's kind of balding and like red hair, and he's
Brendan Gleeson.
no. You keep talking, and
Okay.
I'll get back to it.
The special effects are pretty good.
Okay, I thought so. It's Matt Walsh.
Oh, Matt Walsh. Yeah.
If Matt Walsh was the tiny like ex-husband character,
Yeah.
that would have made perfect sense to me because he's a character actor. He just shows up in things.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it was Bradley Cooper.
I thought they were leading up to be like someone who's big in the D&D community, like turn around, it's little Matt Mercer or something.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, someone like who. Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah.
Someone whose career is playing Dungeons and Dragons.
Mhm.
That would have been a good cameo.
Yeah.
Instead, it's Bradley Cooper, who I guess who I would have even accepted. Joe DiMaggio.
Joe DiMaggio.
Not
Joe
Joe.
DiMaggio. Yeah. Take his bones.
Yeah.
Mangello.
Yeah.
Joe
Manganiello?
Manganiello.
Yeah, him.
That would have made sense to me because he publicly has been like, I love D&D.
He
And
again.
he's a big muscular guy, and if he was playing the little halfling
Yeah.
character, I would have been like, yeah, this is perfect.
He also comes up later.
Good.
Yeah, the other cameo with the characters from the animated show is when they're in like Forge is like the lord of this area, and he's super powerful, and he decides to basically bring back the Hunger Games. And they end up competing in the Hunger Games because it's a D&D campaign, and of course you are.
Yep.
And then one of the other groups that they're competing against is the group from the original or like the
Gotcha.
animated show, which I read that and I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense, because the way that they were shown, I was like, am I supposed to know who these people are?
I do remember that they stayed on the shot for like a couple seconds longer
Yeah.
than I feel like was necessary.
Mm-hmm.
I love those hokey costumes.
Mm-hmm.
Those are so fun to see.
Yeah,
Don't they all die?
I'm pretty sure they all died. Yeah,
Some of them made it to the end. We don't see what happens after they get to the end.
Yeah.
at least one of them is in the gelatinous cube.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Which I really like the way that they did the Hunger Games style
Mhm.
thing, because
Mhm.
there's so many iconic monsters in D&D that there's no way narratively for it to make sense for them to accidentally run into each and every one
Yeah.
Mhm.
and like appease everyone.
Mhm.
So just here's all of them at once in a gladiatorial arena.
Yeah.
Yeah.
arena.
No, that definitely made sense. Nothing felt forced, really. Like,
no,
I in my opinion. But again, I'm a casual D&D fan, so this is more of a thing for Bryce.
No, to what you were saying about how it was a comedy, but it didn't feel forced like Marvel comics, I think was because in the Marvel movies, in those movies, they establish these characters mostly as serious people who are dealing with serious things. And then when a joke comes along or a quip comes along, it's just like, oh, okay, that's a thing. But at the beginning of this movie, these two are jokers.
Yeah.
Like
they're in a prison camp and they're just joking around with each other.
Yeah. He's knitting a little mittens, and then even while they're giving his big tragic backstory, he's still asking for that one Aarakocra judge so he can jump on his back and fly away.
Yeah.
Jonathan. Yeah.
Jonathan.
I love the name too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of left this section before we get to production facts pretty open-ended.
Yeah.
What else do we want to talk about? Impressions of the movie? Are there any characters you did or did not like exceptionally
Bryce,
much?
I can tell you that you're itching to talk.
You got one?
I'm itching. I'm ready to go. I liked the way that they had all the characters interact, or I like their dynamic, because it very much felt like a long-term D&D campaign, as in, you start with a handful of people, you might lose someone, like Ford, the character Ford felt like a problem character when you start a campaign. You have a bunch of people, there's one that might be a bad egg, and so they're asked to leave, and then maybe they're carried on as an antagonist for the rest of the campaign. And then you have the tiefling who comes on later, who very much, we have another friend, they're coming along. And especially with the paladin. Yeah. Especially the paladin, who just shows up, wrecks house, and leaves.
Yeah.
So you liked that?
Yeah.
I didn't.
I also didn't.
As someone who plays a game a lot, I got a kick out of that, because it was like he's heavily promoted in everything, but he's only there for a little bit and then leaves. And
which is why I thought he was going to be there the whole time. Like, I thought it really was like they would establish the crew, and then for the rest of the movie, like, they were there. I don't know. Him having his own storyline, like a deep backstory and storyline that they had to like also tell and wrap up in this movie, I don't know. I thought it was unnecessary.
I didn't mind it. I just wish that he had been marketed more as
I'm here too.
Well, less as a core member of the adventuring party and more as like the NPC that everyone eventually falls in love with and gets too well developed.
Yeah.
As like he shows up as like the DM being like, oh no, I overestimated things and you guys need a little more help, like that kind of thing. I thought his character was really fun, especially that one scene where he's like, I'm leaving now, I've done what I can, I have to go forward, and then he just walks over a rock and like he has to go this way and he does not move.
Beautifully improvised bit.
Oh, that's fun.
That wasn't planned.
Oh, good.
And I love it because, D&D, you have a gridded map.
Yeah.
And you're only walking one direction.
Good.
That's good. The Simon, the
sorcerer.
I liked his character because I feel like often sorcerers, like when someone is playing a sorcerer, they expect to be like this overpowered magic wielding character. But his whole thing is that he's like not a great sorcerer,
which makes sense for what sorcerers are. They don't study, they're just naturally adept at magic. And the way that I've seen it played a lot is very overconfident, sometimes douchebags, sorcerers. But this one, the way that he portrayed it made sense, because if you're just naturally adept at something but haven't studied it, you're not going to be great at it.
I did like him. I also like Justice Smith in general.
Yeah,
he's been
like Justice Smith
in good stuff.
Detective Pikachu.
Yep.
I liked him in the Quarry, that game that was made by the people that Until Dawn. So it was basically Until Dawn again, but at a summer camp. But the way that he acted in it was very good, and also a lot of his interactions with the one dude that I always think is a Sprouse twin but isn't. I know what that reference means.
Sure.
And I can picture
As long
his
as
face.
you know.
Yeah.
Justice Smith is also in, I mean, tons of things, but the
Yeah.
thing that like I remember Justice Smith in is a movie with Elle Fanning.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a Netflix movie. It's one of those just like teen romance movies, and it takes place in Indiana, and the whole premise is that the two are in a class together, and they do a report on things in Indiana.
Oh.
And they go to a bunch of these weird attractions
Yeah.
in Indiana, which 3 of us in this room are from Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like they're like naming things and talking about things and going to things that like I recognized. But because Indiana doesn't have the film tax credit, they still filmed it in Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one thing, this guy made his own little roller coaster in his backyard, and they went to that. And they had the actual guy. So I don't know if they had like one day where they were like, I guess we're not paying taxes today. I guess we are paying taxes today,
Yeah.
sorry. And they went to Indiana, or if they brought the man over to Ohio. So it was just weird. It was just like, come on,
Yeah.
just film it. That was a sad movie. I wouldn't watch it.
That's the same conundrum that Fault in Our Stars. Right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
I heard for that movie, the people who were really big fans of the book, the one with Justice Smith.
Yep.
People who were really big fans of the book hated the movie.
That makes
That,
sense.
Hated the
that
movie.
tracks for most
Pretty
movie
common.
adaptations, I
Yeah.
feel
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna follow up with something, but yeah.
Yeah.
Shawn, was anything in the first half that really just you're like, ooh, mwah, mwah.
Jonathan, that's all I have to know.
Yeah.
I just thought that it, like, touching on the Monty Python thing again,
Yeah.
or like even like the Princess Bride,
Mm-hmm.
like just the characters, like the introduction to these characters was really fun and really, like you guys said, light. But it seemed like it's good to know that it was taking a lot of the D&D like identity and tropes and personality and
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
putting that in there. But I, as a person that doesn't know much about D&D, still was just watching it as like a fun fantasy movie.
Yeah.
To me, it's a movie that if it came out in the 80s would be a classic. Like if it was like this still the same story and all of like the writing and everything, I think it would be like, oh, this is a classic. You have to watch Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
To make this more of a bottle episode, that's also what you said.
That's true.
We Have a Ghost.
Yeah, We Have a Ghost. I think if that was a movie that came out 30, 40 years ago, it would be another movie that was like, this is a classic, like
Mm-hmm.
goofy coming of age with a little gimmick type of movie. Which I think is fun about movies that happen now.
I'm glad you didn't just stop with fun about movies that happen.
Just because there's so much content that's coming out, which is the basis basically for this podcast.
It's never gonna die.
There's so much stuff is coming out this year alone that is just a wide range, and so I just think it's interesting when you get a movie like this and Cocaine Bear and 80 for Brady.
What a time to be alive.
Yeah.
We're already on the podcast, guys. We don't need you to sell it to us. Come on.
I'm just saying my own thoughts.
Yeah.
This is not.
Brag.
Why do you have to call me out like this, Shawn?
Anything else from the movie we wanted to talk about before production facts?
The special effects.
Yeah.
I was pretty happy with the special effects all the way through. There wasn't really anything where I was like, that doesn't look real. The only time that I would have said that, but I think it was supposed to look weird, is you didn't get to it, Shawn, but later in the movie, they make an illusion of Chris Pine singing and playing the lute.
Yeah.
And
Which is that what they show in the trailer?
Yeah. And they it's a distraction to distract some guards. But the sorcerer stops focusing on it, and so it starts to like
His face starts melting, basically.
starts melting and distorting, and then like repeats like a record.
Mm-hmm.
It looks goofy. It looks weird, but like it made sense.
Yeah.
Like this is a moment where CGI looking goofy on purpose makes sense and is like, I believe that. The Flash, which came out, has terrible CGI. We'll talk about it eventually.
Guess what else comes up later?
The Flash?
Yeah.
Wow. I'm just nailing this. I am nailing this. But the director for The Flash said that some of the CGI in it was goofy on purpose because it's a goofy movie. Let me tell you, it's all trash.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think there is a moment of CGI in that film where I'm like, okay, yeah, no, that's fine. That's CGI. To me, honestly, it was maybe a step above the CW, the Flash TV show. Like, even the TV show had moments where I was like, that is really impressive.
Yeah.
I think
But-
this does help because it's like not based in our reality, so like
Yeah.
you can give it more leeway to
When it's a fantasy, you can.
yeah.
Yeah.
But just like the textures of everything, I thought like
Mhm.
the owl bear, like
I do like the owl bear.
when the druid transforms into an owl bear and back, all of it, like the textures looked really good. Like there wasn't like ever like that weird blur rubbery look to it that you get with CGI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just really like the the references,
Mm-hmm.
especially when it came to the way the magic worked.
Yeah.
Because instead of trying to figure out, okay, how does it work in our world, they just opened the player's manual and was like, all right, how did it work in here?
Yeah.
Because something that, at least in my tables, what we kind of yada over are some of the spell components.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, to cast a certain spell, you might need a piece of wood and a feather. And in this, they got by that by having Simon have a little component pouch. He
Yeah.
could spin, find exactly what he needed, use that. Also, the verbal and nonverbal components. Like whenever he's in the middle of trying to get out of the theater that he's trying to rob. That guy who... It also shows... It was a little funny... the guy who covered his mouth there to stop his vocal component must have also been around these kind of people to know that that spell needs a vocal component to just close his mouth.
Yeah.
Which I just thought that was really funny.
Mm-hmm.
Attuning to an item, usually yada over. A very big part of this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the whole. He confronts his grandpa through the helmet or something.
Because his
like-
grandpa was this great sorcerer.
Yeah. And then he has to basically convince the helmet to work for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Just all the little rules that they put in there just went in seamlessly,
Uh,
and also kind of gives credit to the system itself for being so well made.
yeah. Justice Smith also talked about in interviews how a lot of the like nonverbal components of the spells are based off of real sign language.
Oh, nice.
So it's like a fully choreographed thing that they have that he's not just like
Making it up.
yeah.
That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I would say production facts.
Cool. It is.
You would say that.
You would. It was.
But no.
No. It was released. It had a theatrical release by Paramount Pictures, March 31st, 2023. It's now streaming on Paramount Plus. The ratings, it has a 91% on Rotten Tomatoes with a 93% audience score, 72 out of 100 Metacritic, A- on Cinema Score. Pretty good
That
all
is pretty
around.
good. But was it successful?
Technically, no.
Oh, really?
Technically, no. So the budget was $151 million, according to the directors. The box office got $208.2 million worldwide, with $93.3 million of that being from the US. So, like, it made more money than its budget, but it technically underperformed at the box office. So, in an article from Screen Rant that I found, it says its $151 million budget means that it had to make a significant amount of money theatrically in order to turn a profit. A standard calculation that estimates how much money a blockbuster has to gross theatrically worldwide in order to turn a profit is 2.5 times its original production budget in order to account for marketing and distribution costs. This means that Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves will have to gross approximately $378 million to become profitable. This was written before the movie came out.
Yeah.
So, spoilers, it did not make that much money. The But
I mean, its marketing was strong. I
well,
remember.
I was marketed strongly
That's
for
true.
this movie.
We were, because
Yeah.
we're nerds.
Yeah. But one of the criticisms I saw was that like the marketing for it wasn't very strong. I think I don't know how much I agree with that, because
I feel like I saw posters places too, and like
There's-
billboards.
As the non D&D as the person that's the least D&D
Yeah.
person here, I only knew about it because I really like John Francis Daley.
Okay.
And I mean I think I would have known that it was in the ether, but I wouldn't have like
Yeah.
known like, oh, this could be a good movie.
I mean,
would have just been like,
interesting.
oh, that's like another
Yeah.
fantasy.
I knew a lot about like the different, they have like specific campaigns and like specific character sheets and stuff for
Mhm.
the characters, but then there was also a novelization that came out that was like I think it's a prequel technically, or it's about the like original D&D party that has Forge in it, and I saw that at Target all the time.
That's a very 70s, 80s thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was competing with the Mario movie, and fans were calling for the boycott of Wizards of the Coast / Hasbro
man.
due to the linked changes to the D&D open game license thing that we
Just
talked
didn't
about
expect
earlier.
it to work. I don't know. Just a lot of nerds are like insufferable, so I just assumed that they would have
Yeah.
just seen the movie.
They would still go
Well,
see it, yeah.
Yeah.
How much of their profit came from just those popcorn buckets?
That's
Those
true.
were sold out
Yeah.
so quick.
Mhm.
They
Yeah.
bought the buckets. They didn't see the movie though.
No, that's true.
They just bought the. Seriously?
Yeah,
This isn't.
this isn't a
I
joke.
was doing a bit.
No. So on the
looking
Discord
up
that I'm in
what the
with
buckets look like.
our local TTRPG shop,
Yeah.
they sent out like a little message saying, "Hey, because AMC gets some movies early, they're releasing the popcorn buckets now. They're probably going to be gone."
Oh my god.
This
what-
one,
Yeah, that one.
it's of audio listeners. It's a 20-sided die.
And video, because you can't see.
Yeah, for $34.99.
$35 for a 20-sided die popcorn box. Does the whole top hinge, or is it just one of the triangles?
No, it's the whole top, and
Okay.
it's about this big.
Wow.
That's a decent amount of popcorn.
So
Yeah.
so you're telling me that like fans
Can
seriously?
you do that for the visual people? Can you do that? Yeah. there
this
we go.
one.
You
You
could've
also have a
You
camera.
have a camera that you
Oh,
could-
I keep forgetting.
yeah, you can switch to yourself, Bryce.
This big.
So fans actually bought this without seeing the movie?
Yeah. Well, and a lot of that was one person going in and texting all their friends, "Hey, the popcorn bucket's out. Get me one. Get me one. Get me one." And so they would go out. I know someone from talking to them later on bought like 10. Went there
For
bought
people
10.
who didn't want to see the movie.
For people who couldn't be there or just had work.
Wow.
Okay.
And like
That's more acceptable. I thought you were saying that people were like, I'm boycotting this movie because I don't want my money
But
to
give me
go
the
to
popcorn
them,
bucket.
but I will buy that popcorn bucket.
oh no, I'm sure there's like a small few who fit that Venn diagram.
Yeah.
but
If
it
you are that
was-
kind of person, you are a dummy.
Fighting words.
But no, yeah, we were upset because
Try not to cuss on the podcast anymore in case,
we
demonetization. Sorry.
Yeah.
we couldn't get the popcorn bucket, or we couldn't go that day because we had a D&D session.
That's
And they were like,
So-
we're not canceling this D&D session. We're going.
it took months to
Exactly.
plan. We
Yeah,
can't
well,
cancel this one.
That's the
Like
funny
they
thing is that
do.
It was it was
Oh, that was the last minute
it was
one?
a last minute
Well,
D&D
honestly, when it's a
session.
last minute one, it is harder to cancel it because if you can last minute get 6 people to be like, yeah, I can do 4 hours at least for a campaign, then it really is just like I can't.
You
cancel
have to do
You
it.
have
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if I mentioned it later. Oh yeah. So there's still a potential for a franchise, even though this wasn't technically commercially successful. I think part of that was like the reviews for this are just so good. Like,
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
it seems like it resonated with actual D&D fans, and then people who also were just into like a fun fantasy movie.
Yeah.
Like my mom really enjoyed this movie.
I think it would only work if John Francis Daley stays
Mhm.
Yeah.
on.
So there was a TV show from Paramount that was announced in development in early 2022. It's unclear what stage that's at right now.
Especially now.
Yeah. But the Paramount CEO said that a movie sequel is possible, but with a smaller budget, which I think they could still do a lot with that.
Yeah.
Like, I think it would be fine. I think the quality, like the expectation is the quality of a sequel is going to go down from the original. I feel like they would still be okay.
I feel like if they have the type of budget that like Star Trek Strange New Worlds has for their show, then they would be fine in terms of like production design and how it looks and everything. Like, because those Star Trek shows look great, and like those don't have huge budgets.
No, but the writing is really strong, so that helps a lot with.
Which is why I think John Francis Daley would have to.
Yeah.
I mean, with the way that they did the Eric Hawker and the Dragonborn alone, probably shot a majority of their budget, and they looked amazing. But even just like axing the more complicated characters to show, I think they'd be fine.
Yeah, that's true. This movie was in development hell for so long.
How long?
Since 2013.
Oh, okay.
So here's a quick timeline. 2013, Warner Bros. Announces a film is in pre-production for D&D. 2 days later, Hasbro announces a lawsuit because they were developing a film with Universal Pictures. In 2015, that case was resolved with Warner and Hasbro basically told to play nice and work together.
How does that... where's the confusion there? Did Warner Brothers not realize Hasbro owned it? And they were like, we made these movies in the 90s, so I assume we can make them
there's
again.
A spider descending from the ceiling.
Right here.
Oh.
Cut to the camera. Spider.
Here we go.
What do you have to say? Can you see the spider?
Yeah. It's like because your black shirt.
Good. That's why I wore it. All right. So the spider saw the other half of the movie. Spider, come on. Don't get shy.
Spider does not want to talk about.
Your silence speaks volumes.
Yeah. Spider's not a fan.
No.
And we're not.
Let's just say that.
I also am not a fan. It's not nearly as big as that giant one we saw in here the other day.
That's true.
That I still think about. Anyway, 2017, actor and D&D fan Joe Manganiello. Is that how we decided his name is pronounced?
Manganiello?
Manganiello.
Joe
Manganiello.
Sofia Vergara's ex-husband.
That sounded almost.
Yeah.
To say.
So
Manganiello.
Manganiello
Sorry, go ahead.
reveals he has written a script for a D&D movie and was in development talks. He says, quote, with the right people.
And the people were?
Potentially Brad Payton and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Brad Payton is I believe, director and producer, but basically all the stuff that he has worked on is all of the Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson movies. So
would not have been the right people.
it would have been a very different movie, especially if they were so worried about Jumanji: The Next Level and like being compared to that. Also in 2017, Hasbro moves production to Paramount. It is in talks with directors Chris McKay, who does Robot Chicken, several seasons of that, Lego Batman, and Renfield, which we also just talked about.
Yeah.
I think we've mentioned every episode that we've done now. And then... No?
Somebody I used to know. There we go.
There we go.
You did it.
And so then moved in talks with directors Chris McKay and then the writer Michael Giulio, who is credited as a co-writer on the film, so he's been attached since 2017.
Gotcha.
In 2019, the casting process begins, and they're now in talks with John Francis Daley and Jonathan Goldstein, who I didn't realize are such a duo.
Yeah.
So they, if you don't know, John Francis Daley is known for Freaks and Geeks and Bones as an actor, and then he left the show Bones to do screenwriting, and it's worked out very well for him. Yeah. They're both credited as writers on Spider-Man: Homecoming, Horrible Bosses, and Game Night.
2 of those movies I like.
That's true.
Where are we going to find out which 2?
I don't like Horrible Bosses.
Okay,
that one does not age well.
Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah.
Game Night, I'm a big fan.
I'm a
Game
big
Night.
fan of Game Night too.
Yeah.
And then, okay, so they're in talks with Daley and Goldstein to direct after John Francis Daley talked to an agent he met at a bar and mentioned he wasn't working on anything since he and Goldstein left directing duties on The Flash. So
It was a good move.
it's all coming back together.
Yep.
In 2020, Daly and Goldstein have a new version of the script. The movie gets made, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So, highs and lows of that process.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
Manganiello. Manganiello.
Manganiello to you too.
I'm gonna say Manganello.
I think
I looked up a way to pronounce it. I was like,
Manganello.
it's
Yeah.
Italian.
Manganello. Okay.
It's definitely Italian.
I don't mean to be insensitive to his culture. It's just hard for those syllables. to
Joe-
get out of my
me,
mouth.
Manganello.
Yeah.
Joe Mamma Mia.
The new voice of Mario.
Yeah.
I would have been okay with that
Yeah.
over Chris Pratt. Not again. I don't think Chris Pratt. I say it again. We haven't talked about Mario yet.
Yeah.
I don't think Chris Pratt did like a terrible job like everyone was expecting.
I
But
just feel like anyone else could have done it.
oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And it would have been fine.
Mm-hmm. Well,
It's at that time.
it's at that time, everybody, that we talk. We talk about what we thought of the movie in terms of our rating system, and our
It's the time of the podcast where we talk about the movie.
yep. We haven't been talking
about
about the
time.
movie.
Yeah.
Our rating system is a out of 4 rating system with 5 options. 0 out of 4 is oh no, that's bad.
Mm-hmm.
Stop making movies. Everyone who made this movie, everyone who worked on it down to Crafty,
Don't.
stop.
Yeah.
1 is that was a movie.
Mm-hmm.
2 is a well-made movie.
Mm-hmm. We changed this recently because of our conversation about Knock at the Cabin.
3 is enjoyable and technically well-made.
Mm-hmm.
4 is Oscar-worthy. Like, that is like, ooh, baby, keep making movies. Everyone down to Crafty, keep doing it. Don't
Set out
stop.
those bagels, baby.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, my rating for this movie
Mm-hmm.
is a 3 out of 4, which means I thought it was fun and well technically made.
Mm-hmm.
Maggie, what was your rating of this
I also
movie?
gave it a 3 out of 4. It was a very fun movie. I think it's pretty rewatchable. I enjoy Hugh Grant as a concept, and he was there.
Just as a concept. You
Yeah.
enjoy it. Okay. I like Hugh Grant being in like a villain era.
Yeah, we
I like
barely
this.
Yeah.
talked about Hugh Grant's character.
I mean, he kind of is barely in the movie, but like not in a bad way. He's just sprinkled in the right amount to be
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
enough of a threat to be the big bad.
But he wasn't even like, okay, we're going to take a little
A little pause.
pause in our rating. He was like a big bad, but he wasn't the big bad.
Yeah.
The big bad was the bald witch lady who didn't really get much
Yeah.
character development.
Hugh Grant was the puppet for the real big bad.
Yeah.
But then because of that, then she wasn't really given any motivation or anything besides being a witch and red at the same time.
Yeah.
Well, she was also trying to resurrect the guy that.
The big bad.
Big bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had big bad Hugh Grant.
Mm-hmm.
The big bad bald witch lady.
Mm-hmm.
The big bad dead red
Dead
Bald man.
Redemption.
Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah.
2.
We have a title now.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hugh Grant was very lawful evil, whereas the witch was more chaotic evil.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
Good job.
To
Mhm.
use D&D terms.
Yep.
Yeah.
So let's go back to our rating system.
Anyway.
Sean.
If I was rating the first half of this movie, which
Uh-huh.
is all that I can,
Sure.
Yeah.
I would say 3 out of 4 as well,
Okay.
because I think it was very fun, very technically well made.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
But it wasn't like there was anything that was like
It wasn't like a
it wasn't a
fulfilling-
masterpiece or
yeah,
something, but
yeah.
it was just like it was like eating candy or something. It was like, oh, this is nice and delicious, and I could do this. I could watch it often,
Mhm.
probably, but
Bryce.
I gotta finish it one time first, and then
Yeah.
I can watch it often.
Mm-hmm.
Bryce, what would you give this out of our rating system and no halves?
No halvesies.
I would not give this a halfsies.
Okay.
I'm gonna go full bore, and it goes up to 4.
Yeah.
4 out of 4 for
I'm gonna
Bryce.
give it a 4 out of 4.
Nice.
I
Wow.
was going in expecting to hate this movie.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I remember.
Very rarely do things that I like get a good film adaptation.
Yeah.
And this it blew me away with how bad they could have made it,
Mm-hmm.
how many things they could have just gone wrong, and they veered away from all those and just did it right. Like, I love how they didn't do the like a a Fellowship.
Yeah.
Where here's your ranger, here's your fighter, here's your barbarian. Let's go accomplish our goal. They said no. We're gonna do the bad route, but then make it good. Like turn them to the good side.
Yeah.
Which is how most campaigns go with murder hobos and whatnot.
Yeah.
You can't resist it.
I also appreciated that they didn't do the other side of that spectrum and make it a Suicide Squad and
Yes.
What is this? Some kind of D&D campaign?
What is this? Some kind of honor among thieves?
So that means the episode's rating is a 3.25 out of 4. If we average our answers,
Which we always do.
Sometimes we do.
Yeah.
When we have different ones, then we average it.
Yeah.
One more thing that I didn't like about this movie is that none of the characters had like a name that was like Jizz Wrecker or something like that. Because you always have that one player who is just like, I'm a Cumtron 4000 and I'm a barbarian.
Stephen Careers.
My character in our campaign is called Stephen Careers, inventor of the
eyeball?
The eyeball, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Like
That was a good invention.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a hit.
Yeah.
We can't forget the big dragon named Thimberchode.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. That's
They got
close.
one in there.
We did get a chode.
Yeah.
They never really talked.
Yeah, even the like core cast, like Zank, Doric, Forge, these are all like very D&D names. Simon is the closest that you get to like, and I'm Hank.
I'm Bob.
Yeah.
A level 15 orc from the mountains.
I am Jeremy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now that we're done talking about our main movie for this episode, we always talk about a different movie that we've watched this year that's not from 2023, just a different movie, because we like watching movies. We're all movie people in this room. And I have an option that I don't think we've mentioned yet, and we need to write this down because I'm going to start repeating myself.
Yeah.
Of a movie that we watched, and that I'm sure you've seen it, is Hot Rod.
Yeah.
The Lonely Island. Is that their first movie? I think that was their first movie.
Pretty sure.
It's Andy Samberg, Yorma
Tacome.
Yeah.
Magnella.
Danny McBride is in it. Bill Hader is in it.
Yeah.
Will
It's a
Arnett.
great cast.
Isla
Fisher.
Fisher.
Yeah. Have you seen Hot Rod before, Bryce?
I was a child.
Yeah.
Brag.
I think it's definitely a movie that as an adult, way funnier.
Oh yeah.
Because I know I watched it in high school and I was like, I'm fine. But like watching it more recently, I'm like, this is such a great movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's about Andy Samberg who wants to be a like stunt
Motorcycle.
Motorcycle.
Or not motorcycle, but
well,
dirt
he
bike.
wants to be a motorcycle
Stunt driver.
Yeah.
Daredevil. He wants to be a daredevil, like Evel Knievel.
Yeah.
But he only has a little pedal-powered moped, and he's like trying to do really small jumps, and then they always fail, and he ragdolls, and basically he would die if any of that was actually real. But it's very funny, and it's also like there's a lot of heart to it. Like he's basically doing this because he believes that his dad, who is now passed, was this great daredevil, and his stepdad, he wants to impress his stepdad even though he doesn't want to admit it. And it's just this really like impactful
it's
story.
a fun undercurrent of like toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
I feel like before that was more of a mainstream phrase, and instead it's just like making fun of the relationship that he has with his stepdad, but also showing like they do actually care about each other, even if they wrestle every single day and punch each other in the face. They're like, that was a good punch, I'm proud of you, son.
Yeah. So that's a movie that you should check out. A lot of the ones that we've talked about in this other 2023 movie, I've said it's just like a fun movie to have on. You know,
Mhm.
it's like a fun movie. This is one that you should like really like watch.
Mhm.
It is smarter than
Then-
you. Yeah.
Then it seems like it is.
Yeah, because it
At
seems
first
like a
glance.
dumb movie
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
from like
definitely.
the exterior, which is also why it didn't do well. It was not a successful movie. But it really is.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
Like Hot Rod.
Yeah.
What's a movie that you've watched that's not from 2023, but you've watched recently? And
I just recently watched the movie. It's very different than Hot Rod.
Yeah.
To Leslie.
I haven't
Have you heard
seen
of
it.
this? I had only heard of it for two reasons. It wasn't a very big release, but it has Mark Maron in it, who's a stand-up
Okay.
comedian that I'm a big fan of.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In a very like serious acting role. And it also has, I think her name's Andrea Riseborough. She's an actress that if you see her, you're like, okay,
Mhm.
yeah, I know who that is. But she was nominated for Best Actress, and there was a lot of controversy around it because people thought that she, like, I don't really know how the Oscar rules go, but how like the for your consideration kind of stuff, they thought that she like had like personal relationships with a lot of the voters.
Oh, she swayed the
Gotcha.
votes. Or
Yeah,
something?
and they did an investigation on it, and it didn't turn out to be
Yeah.
necessarily true. And she is actually very incredible in the movie, so like, I would say that she
Yeah.
at least deserves to be nominated. But the movie itself, she's like struggling addict who like kind of like tries to get herself together and then messes it up, and tries to get herself together and messes it up, and then she ends up at this like crappy motel that Mark Maron runs, and he runs it poorly, and then you like their relationship, like the way that grows and builds, like helps both of them. And you know, so it's like sounds like a pretty standard movie, and like it could be cheesy, but I think they did it like it is. There's a little bit of cheesiness, but it like really like touches on like a lot of human moments really well.
Mark Maron is a better dramatic actor than I think he gets credit for.
Yeah.
There's a great episode of Reservation Dogs
That he's in,
where he plays one of the characters gets taken away from his home and has to live at like a boys' home. And Mark Maron is like the guy who
runs it
and watches them, and he's great in that. And like his character has like a little bit of a comedic thing to it, but it is still like he gets serious in it, and it's impressive. Yeah. Bryce, do you have a movie that you've seen that's not from this year that you've watched recently?
Werewolves on Wheels.
Werewolves on Wheels.
I have no follow-up questions.
Yeah, I mean, I think it pretty much explains itself, you know?
It was made, I think, early 80s.
I've
to
definitely
late 80s.
Yeah, I was
heard
gonna
of
say
this
if it wasn't in
movie.
the 80s, then
Oh, it's very
Yeah.
80s.
Yeah.
what kind of wheels are we talking?
Well, actually,
Is it
all kinds.
Motorcycles?
Okay.
Is
It's
it
a
a motorcycle
motorcycle
movie?
gang, but they've
Yeah.
also got a van and I think another car. Just
Okay.
to
My
sleep-
first thought when you said that was rollerblades.
So I had
Ooh.
a
That
would've been cool.
similar thing, except the wheels were like a part of them.
Ah,
So if you've ever played Twisted Metal, and we talked,
yes, which
There-
they have a show now.
there's the
Yeah.
TV show. There is a character who his vehicle is his arms turn into giant wheels on the side. That is his character.
Jax, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
See, this is something I know about.
You-
Twisted Metal.
you said werewolves on wheels, and I was like, okay, so their paws turn into little wheels.
So on the full moon, they become
They become
Honda.
they become a Honda Civic.
Yeah.
It's different breeds of wolves.
Yeah.
Depends on what make and model you are.
Yeah. So it's a motorcycle gang that turns into
Yes. So a motorcycle gang rides into an area where they get lost. They come across a monastery that has been taken over by a group of cultists.
Of course.
Who are trying to either summon or praise Satan. The one woman. No.
two.
There's 3 women.
Whoa.
Very progressive for the time. It's a
Does
lot
it-
of dudes.
Does it pass the Bechtel test?
Oh no. Oh no, it doesn't.
That's fine. That's a different podcast.
Oh,
Yeah,
no. It's very, if you like
Werewolves?
It's a blood and boobs film.
No, I figured there was some naked werewolves in
I
this.
only
Yeah.
like boobs if there's blood involved also.
I mean, different strokes for different folks.
But I can
That
do blood.
changes my perspective.
I can do blood without
On
boobs,
you.
though. Yeah, that's just my.
Yeah.
That's my 2 cents, guys. Don't.
That's the name of the title. I can take blood without boobs.
You
Anyways, so they go to this. One of them, the lady gets turned into a werewolf. Turns her boyfriend to a werewolf, and all in all, you don't get to see a werewolf with fur and everything on wheels until the very end of the movie, and then it's just like a chest up with green screen behind him, and then the finale is a dummy dressed as a werewolf getting yeeted off of a very small hill. Like you just kind of, or like, I don't even want to call it a cliff because it's very small. It's a 20-foot drop. Just goes. That's it.
That sounds great.
And they go back to the cult.
Oh.
And like their intentions are to beat them up, but then they end up joining them.
They find common
That
ground.
sounds like a great movie.
There's a snake.
Is it on a plane? Well,
Nor is it
That's
on
a lot of
wheels.
transportation. Okay.
Yeah.
you're right.
This is just wheels.
Yeah. Some planes have wheels. I'd say most planes
I
in the
think
world.
a lot
They're
of them have
supposed
wheels,
to.
but that's not their main.
That's not what they're known for.
Yeah.
Unless you're taxiing for hours.
That's true.
Yeah. Did you think
Tell me
about that,
about it.
Maggie? You think about that? I bet you didn't think about that.
I
did you?
didn't.
You didn't think about that. Did you think about that?
I'm gonna check my privilege.
Someone who's never had to taxi for
No.
hours.
Must be nice.
I've never taxied. The plane's in the air by the time I get in.
You just jump. They're closing the tunnel thing, and you're like, hold that door.
No. The plane is in the air.
Oh,
It is already in the air.
you've just got hops.
They trebuchet me.
Oh, nice.
And
I was gonna say like cannonball or slingshot.
I go into the air and they physics it just right. So right at the apex of the height,
Yeah.
I just step onto the plane.
You're just like,
Hey guys, I'm ready.
Here's the big question: are you in first class or economy?
Or are you flying the plane?
I'm in trebuchet class, Bryce. What do you think?
you would
Well-
understand.
I'm not a frequent trebuchet flyer.
No.
Yeah,
You gotta get those trebuchet points.
damn. I'm just in economy, but business pays for it.
Yeah. Well, after all of that trebuchet nonsense,
Yep.
thank you everyone for watching or listening to this episode. Thank you, Shawn, for
Sorry that I didn't see the whole movie. I
It's
didn't do my
okay.
homework. If you have me back,
Mhm.
I will watch the whole movie.
Mm-hmm.
Or we could just pick a movie that I have already watched at that point.
That's true.
That's true. At some point, we will talk about Asteroid City.
Mm-hmm.
That will be.
I
Please bring me back.
I know
Yeah.
you've seen that one, so I'll let you know. Shawn.
That'll
okay?
be one that I have a lot of knowledge
It's
about.
it's
Wes
probably
Anderson.
it's probably gonna be in 2 weeks.
All right.
So little spoilers for our audience.
Wow.
Yeah, Shawn, where if I were a viewer of this podcast and I said, that Shawn was an interesting guy, but I'd like to hear him talk more. How do I find him?
Seamless.
Yeah, that was good.
I started slipping into Jimmy Stewart.
Yeah,
and
I
I
know.
needed to stop.
Yeah. I'm on Instagram at Shawn Braley, SHAWN
Mm-hmm.
BRALEY. Bradley without the D.
Mm-hmm.
Is what I like to say. I've never said that. And I am often doing comedy, especially lately at the Commonwealth Sanctuary.
Yes,
Mhm.
which is where we filmed this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
We have
in
mentioned
Dayton,
that.
Kentucky.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The-
just go ahead and dox us completely, I guess.
It is. It's on 7th Street.
5th.
I was trying to
Mm.
not give the whole.
I
He was
mean,
doing a bit as a
you can't not dox a business and promote it at the same time.
That's true. I did say the name, and all they have to do is go on Google and type it in,
Yeah.
which you should. Go on Google, type in Commonwealth Sanctuary,
we have comedy.
leave a
every
5-star review, and say Shawn Braley is very funny, and he should get a raise. and I think that
It'll work.
it'll
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
Yeah, but spell my name right, otherwise they'll give it to the wrong shot.
I think we need to get like a timer for how long our guests can talk about.
Look, I didn't have a lot to say about the movie, so I was just like sitting here waiting, and then the spider came down and stole
Yeah.
my thunder, and it was
Yeah.
just a lot.
That's
Where can
yeah.
we find the spider? If we want more
I think it's
spider.
on the ground.
I'm worried that it went up my
Hopefully.
pant leg, and I keep like feeling like there's a bug in my
Yeah.
Get a nice little surprise later.
yeah when I have spider bites on my balls.
A little friend.
Well, thank you for watching our podcast.
Mhm.
Please follow us on the social medias. We mainly work on Instagram.
We
That is our
mostly
main
just
thing.
use the one.
We technically have a Twitter, and we technically have a subreddit. So eventually, we'll probably work on that. But
Yeah.
also Patreon. Patreon is the thing that would really benefit us the most.
Mhm.
We are doing this podcast for us, but also for you. And we can do this podcast better for you if you show us you care.
So what you're saying is, if they like it, they should
Mhm.
give money because they like it. If they don't like it, they should give money because then it will be better, and then
Correct.
they'll like it.
It's a
Yeah.
win-win for
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like we always want to say, if you have questions, comments, whatever regarding this podcast, please let us know, because
Mhm.
we're going to be doing a once a month community podcast on our Patreon,
Mhm.
where we will answer some community questions, talk about things, just kind of give updates, and
Mhm.
we're gonna have our first one in September, which
Is soon.
might have already happened by the time this episode aired, or this episode airs in September. So
Time gets weird with
Yeah.
podcasts.
Listen in
we
to find
film
out.
like
Yeah.
3 weeks ahead.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's the big thing.
Mhm.
And if there's a 2023 movie that you want us to talk about sooner, let us know, and we will bump that up. But if not, we will just keep going on what we feel like is next.
Mhm.
So thank
you-
you, Bryce, for doing your thing that you do here.
Yeah.
I did a lot more talking than switching. So
That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
here we are. I wore the shirt for it. All they saw was dungeons. I want to make sure they see that.
And
There's
dragons.
also dragons.
You
Yeah.
weren't just wearing a
And
dungeon
ants.
shirt. Yeah.
Just dungeons, no dragons.
Were you gonna say something?
Nope.
Okay, then that is the end of the podcast. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.